The reason people scoff at the Bible is not because of their science, it's because of their sin. Julian Huxley, Thomas Huxley's grandson, said, I suppose the reason we leapt at the origin of species was the idea of God interfered with our sexual mores. Ooh, well, at least he's honest. They just want freedom from God's authority over their life, and he admitted it, okay?
Wow, that sounds like a pretty damning quote that exposes the real motivations of evolutionists, doesn't it? But let's take another look at that slide. Note that Kent Hovind usually has very specific citations for the things he's quoting, though that doesn't mean they aren't taken out of context. But here, all it says is, in a television interview. It doesn't say when the television interview happened, or what year, or even from what source he heard about the television interview. This is not a credible citation. If the quote were real, you'd think a cursory Google search would turn up the original source for it, but all I get is creationists regurgitating the quote without any verification, or pages from people who have investigated the reliability of the quote and found it lacking. But it gets worse. Hovind immediately follows the quote with another one that also has very dubious citation.
Sir Arthur Keith, who wrote the foreword to Darwin's book when it was republished in 1759, Keith said, evolution is unproved and unprovable. We believe it because the only alternative is special creation, and that is unthinkable.
Notice again how the citation doesn't actually say where this quote came from, but it does strongly imply that it came from Arthur Keith's foreword of the 100th anniversary edition of Origin of the Species. The only problem is, Arthur Keith couldn't have written the foreword to the 100th anniversary edition in 1959 because he died in 1955. He did write introductions to previous editions, but nobody's been able to find the quote in those editions either. Ultimately, I can't prove that Huxley and Keith didn't say these things, but I can show there's no real evidence that they did. The fact that Kent Hovind is okay with asserting that these quotes are real, given the lack of evidence, should be very troubling to anyone who considers him a credible source. These are just two examples of how sloppy Kent Hovind's research and attention to accuracy really are. It makes you wonder, if he can't even get a couple quotes right, how can you trust what he claims is accurate data about much more complicated scientific subjects?